and a lot of great athletes all around the country that are doing great things. And we're just trying to create conversations to present to our younger selves things that we wish we would have heard or known about when we were going through the recruiting process way back when in myself in 1993 and Jimmy in 2003, 2004. So um, that's kind of a gist of what we're doing. We are excited to hear about your journey, but also hear about the university, hear a little bit more about Evansville, Indiana, what you guys got going on, and do a little fact finding, maybe hopefully create some pipelines for you and connect you with some people that we know and athletes that are doing some great things and help University of Evansville get up on the rise and do some great things.
Absolutely. That sounds good to me.
Awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We're hitting you with a cross country and track trifecta this week. But before we get into it, before we get started, you know how we do it over here. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Hit that button. Follow us on Instagram and your favorite podcast platform. Drop us a comment. Let us know your thoughts. Join the conversation. We'd love to hear your feedback. And if you do feel so inclined, you're getting any value out of anything we're doing over here, please feel free to support the show. Buy us a coffee. Every sip, every bean fuels the next episode. And again, while we're doing this, this is a grassroots movement over here at Airey Bros Radio. We're all about spotlighting the programs and coaches we wish we knew about during our own recruiting process. Wrestlers, runners, student athletes alike, this one's for you. And if you need any training, whether it's an ultra marathon, or a couch to 5K, we've got you covered. Check out Black Sheep Endurance for elite running and nutrition coaching. And again, this episode is sponsored by CS Instant Coffee, fueled by champions built for the grind. Give a shout out to CS Instant Coffee, the athlete owned and operated coffee brand, keeping us dialed in on the trails and in the gym and behind the mic. No waste, no wait. Just elite, all natural energy in every sip. Head on over to CS Coffee and let them know that the Airey Bros sent you. All right. Tonight's guest, we welcome Coach Dylan Anderson, the new head track and field cross country coach at the University of Evansville, with a strong background in both NCAA Division I and Division II programs. Coach Anderson has built teams from scratch, coached multiple conference champions, and developed national qualifiers. We dive into his coaching journey, the transition to D1, and what's next for the University of Evansville Purple Aces cross country and track and field. Coach Anderson, we really appreciate your time and we welcome you to the show. How's everything going tonight?
Going pretty good. Got a little bit of a tornado watch in the backdrop, so fingers crossed that we don't have any power interruptions.
Okay. Well, I lived in Oklahoma for a few years, so I know what those tornado warnings can be like. And I remember when I first got there, I was at work, and my friend that I was working with, coworker, was like, "Do you have a shelter where you're living, where you're staying?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Well, if things really go sideways, what you're gonna want to do is just get your mattress, bring it into the bathroom, get into the tub, and put the mattress over top of the tub." And I was like, "What?" So that was my introduction. Luckily, I didn't have to deal with any of that, but hopefully we'll get through it, and hopefully there won't be too many tornadoes for you in Evansville.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, it's been a great start here. I got to Evansville in August. Really, it was a big change of pace for me. All of my coaching career was in South Carolina, and then just abruptly going to Indiana. And so it was a big climate change, to say the least. I think Evansville had kind of a record winter, which any kind of a winter would be a record for me. So that was a big change. And but coming into a program that I really felt like that I could make a big impact on, that I could really connect with this group and get them headed in a good direction. I felt like I was uniquely qualified for it, and really been able to bond with my team over last 5 or 6 months, and I'm excited to see where we can go from here.
Well, we are excited to get into that with you for sure. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, Anything you would like to plug or promote? Maybe you have some camps coming up for the summer, anywhere you would like us to send recruits, parents, anyone that has questions about the program, any of the socials, any of that stuff you guys got going on, the floor is yours.
Yeah. So no camps yet, but we hope to roll out a cross country camp here in the next couple of years. Probably Instagram has the two Instagrams, my personal one, which is underscore Coach Anderson underscore. And then at UE Athletics XCTF are the two main ones. And any recruits that are looking to get set up a call need to send in a questionnaire on either one of those two and get in touch that way. DMs directly into my account are probably the easiest way to go. And then, my email at da167@evansville.edu, just to reach out directly. Probably the best ways to reach the program. And the team Instagram will post most of the results live and when we travel. So that'd be the best way to keep up with us and see when we break records and go to new places.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes for you. Coach, we like to start off with a through line. We'd like to make the world a little bit smaller. As you may see, I am wearing a shirt that is covered with South Carolina flags. I'm down here in Greenville right now. So when I saw that you were a graduate of the University, North Greenville University, and then you spent time at Anderson and also in Charleston, and then also at Erskine, I got excited because now that I'm down here, I get to know the lay of the land. We also had Coach Robert Gary on from Furman. So we do have some connections down here in South Carolina. So small world gets a little bit smaller. With that being said, what's your origin story to the sport? We know you're a Florida guy. You came up running in Florida. You did some college running in Greenville. How did all that then lead into coaching for you?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Florida, ran in middle school for a couple of years. Didn't really latch onto the sport too well. Wasn't really good enough. I think the team that I was a part of had some guys that were at the state level, and I was just lucky to be able to finish 3 miles. And then we decided to move to South Carolina, and I got in at Tealhanna High School under Chuck Parker, and kind of found a home again with running. And I think what was special to me during that time is Coach Parker is probably the biggest reason that I'm in coaching. He got me involved in FCA. And I wasn't a good runner by any mark. I mean, I was, I think, 16th on my high school team. But he knew my PBs. He knew if I had a good day or a bad day. Like, he was attentive to my training. And to get that attention as someone that's not factoring into the top group, I think really meant a lot to me. And so I felt like, with my faith journey and growth as a person, if I can do that on a larger scale as a coach, then I will have done something worthwhile. And so really, I have Chuck Parker to thank for that, for 3 great years of coaching, and he's been a great mentor to me as I've kind of navigated the coaching scene. And he's in the South Carolina Hall of Fame now, so he's coached a ton of great people, and I had some that I really admire. I got to my senior year of high school, and I realized that I wasn't going to be good enough to make a college team. I didn't really explore the JUCO route, and it was kind of too late to turn around into something that would land me on a team. So I ended up going to Tech for a year and a half, ran on my own, took about 3.5 minutes off my 5K, and was fortunate enough to bump into somebody from North Greenville, and gave me a shot to walk on. Earned a scholarship my senior year there, and I didn't really blossom too much in college, but I had Coach Stober, Coach Bain, Coach Sims were all great mentors to me and gave me a great student athlete experience. And so while I didn't take off as a runner, it continued to foster the enjoyment of the sport. And then once my final semester at North Greenville, you have to do a full-time internship in order to graduate as a sport management major. And during that full-time internship, I was selected to go to Francis Marion University under Mark Blumen. And so I was able to get coaching experience before I even got my undergrad. And so it was a really valuable experience. He gave me free reign over a strength conditioning program. I got to really train with the group. And as a part of the internship, I had a lot of required reading and a lot of required check-ins. And so and got a lot of recruiting experience there, and it was really good. Unfortunately, when I graduated, there wasn't a paid job there for me. I would have only gotten paid to get my commercial driver's license. I did get a commercial driver's license. That wasn't quite enough to live on. And so once I'd left there, I'd made an acquaintance with the Anderson University coach at the time, Kevin Licht, and he allowed me on as a volunteer that following spring. And so, he really gave me a lot of freedom, gave me a lot of structure, and a lot of hard lessons about what it takes to be a coach. I spent a year and a half with him, and I had an opportunity to be their sprints coach, even though I was, got into that position as hoping to be a distance coach. And that opportunity really blossomed. I was very fortunate to have an older group that was very experienced, and they just, needed somebody that believed in them, was going to give them structure, and was going to push them really hard. And so all of my time at Anderson was really a unique experience. I spent a year and a half there coaching sprints, hurdles, and jumps, and then also training with the men's distance squad. So it was like everything that I was doing at every minute of the day was exactly what I wanted to do. I was coaching, I was training. I had 2 other side jobs working at the YMCA, doing landscaping. It was, an extremely busy time. Really loved being there. My last name is Anderson. I'm from Anderson and coached at Anderson. It was a nice little recruiting pitch. But I kind of realized after Kevin had gone on to Queens that maybe it was time to look elsewhere. And I was blessed enough to get a call from Amy Siegel over at College of Charleston, and gave me an opportunity to go there. It was a little bit of a scary jump because that was like a 50% pay cut to go there, and Charleston is not a cheap place to live. Went there to work with the distance squad, and was eventually given sprints and hurdles as well, and got some really great experience there. I don't know if Amy is listening to this or not, but I was quite the headache under her, really trying to grow into that role, and she was very, very patient and measured with me, and gave me some great experience. That was my first time getting to see a Division I head coach in action, and getting to see her in a place. And she was one of the longest tenured head coaches at that time. And so she'd been on the scene for a long time with a lot of really good wisdom. And that opportunity opened some doors for me. But I also was a bit away from family. And so I had a friend reach out to me who had competed at Erskine College. She went to nationals individually from there. And Erskine was exploring the idea of adding track. And so I felt like with my background with distance, sprints, hurdles, and jumps, that I could be a head coach and start a program from scratch. And so I went to Erskine College, started their men's, women's track and field programs, restarted men's cross country, and it was a busy time. And the first year was really weird because there was only really 5 members of the women's cross country team. And so there wasn't too much to coach the first year. And that spring season was probably the only time I will ever not be coaching in the spring, because there wasn't a team to coach yet. It was entirely recruiting, and it was in just building a team from the ground up. And I brought in, I think, 34 that very first class to get them off the ground, even though I started in September. So I had a very short window to get that team in. Really had a number of growing pains. The very first year, coaching every single event, being the only coach on staff, and I kind of built it out a bit too big in the beginning. I had all of distance, mid distance, sprints, hurdles, jumps. We had a vaulter, we had a thrower. It was a bit much, and so I think in hindsight, when COVID came along, that was probably the most needed 2-week break I've ever had in my life. To have everything shut down for a bit. And, and so as the years went on, I was able to grow the staff. Coach Josh Drew, who's over at Fort Lewis now, and he did an incredible job. He designed our strength conditioning programs. He, coached sprints, jumps, throws, just did an incredible job. And, Coach Quillen and Coach Kaczynski all came along, and we really got the program to grew from about 5 to about 60 people at its height, and kind of got to a point where we had a national qualifier. We had some conference champions. Um, and then last summer, it was my mom had actually traveled with me to the outdoor championship and kind of put the bug in my ear that, hey, like maybe you can go higher and it would be time to start looking. And so that's where Evansville came along, seemed to be the right fit at the right time. And it was the right moment to make the jump. So between getting D2 head coaching, D1 assistant coaching, I felt like that I could get this program headed in a really good direction. And as it had been described to me, a program that hadn't been given a lot of shine yet, and considering what I did down at Erskine in a small town, coming to a city the size of Evansville might have a lot more resources that I could cultivate and take this program somewhere much bigger.
Well, Dylan, I really appreciate you sharing that amazing story of your coaching journey. And I want to touch on some of the things you brought up there. You mentioned when you were in Charleston, I believe, that you were a pain in the butt
Mm-hmm.
and that the coach, I believe you said her name was Amy, probably got sick of you. Do you have any funny stories of questions or things you brought to her table where she just gave you a palm to the head, like, why are you asking me this? Or just things that you learned in that time that now you look back on and you're like, oh, that was crucial to me being a good coach?
Yeah. I think probably getting put in check emotionally. I was really, I think, a bit too over the top, and I think the comment was made to me. If you don't reprioritize, you're not going to make it to 40 in this profession. And I was vehemently against that. I didn't really believe that that was going to be the truth. There was a moment before a meet that we were at Western Carolina, and I was in the group chat with the sprinters and the hurdlers, and I think some kind of discussion had erupted about I don't know, like the merits of tipping, something really dumb, and the team was all arguing and getting into it a little too far. And I asked if I could take them into the conference room of the hotel and you know basically give it to them. And so I think that got titled as the "This is bullshit" speech. Um, and about half of them were crying, and really gave them a reality check of what we were there to do and what was important. But I got back to the hotel room, and I mean, like, my hand was like shaking because I'd gotten so into it. And it's like, dude, you're gonna have a stroke or a heart attack. Like, getting this far into it over a regular season speech, it's too much. And so you kind of realize as you're going through a full season that you just can't get to that place all the time. And it's also probably, it's no, number one, not healthy, but not overly beneficial to your team to get to that place all the time. A lot of times you need to really take a step back and let your team navigate issues and not do it for them. And I think that hearing that, I probably didn't really appreciate it until honestly, probably this year, years down the line, that I didn't get to really look back and, like, she had some great points. And um, I probably was like too vocal about differing opinions in training. I really should have kept my mouth shut on that. I think as now that I've had assistant coaches under me that have disagreed, it's like, all right, yeah, that actually is pretty irritating. To get second guessed when it's your program, when it's your show, and as an assistant coach, your only job is to support the head coach. Period. Whether you agree or not is not your place. It's You are there to support the vision and the direction of that program's headed, and do it to the best of your ability. It's not there for you to give your 2 cents all the time. So I think it was good for me to get a little taste of my own medicine down the road.
Dylan, I love that you brought that up about being a young coach because Rich and I talk about it all the time. And I always look back when I was a younger coach and when I was starting out, I cringe when I think about the things I said to kids, the things I did, how I reacted on the side of a wrestling mat. I cringe when I think about it. And I always say to Rich, I think to be a coach and to be a head coach, like, you probably need to be a little bit older, right? You need
Mhm.
that time as an assistant or just helping out to not be a kid on the team anymore and actually be a coach. And it's just it's like trying to tell someone who's not a parent how to be a parent. You have to have experience actually doing it, and it's the
Yeah.
same with being a coach. I am interested now. You mentioned that this is bullshit speech. Does does stuff like that when it goes on, does it still irritate you, and do you just let it roll off your shoulder and hey, this isn't my hill to die on, or is it one of those things where it doesn't even irritate you anymore because you just realize kids are going to be kids and that's not even worth kind of talking to them about that?
Yeah, I think I don't know that I even really pick those fights anymore. I think I'm definitely more on the side of, let your team navigate those discussions. Like you're kind of taking the process of them becoming adults and dealing with others. Um, if I do it for them, and so that's where being a hammer and treating everything like a nail has. I think I wore myself out of doing that. And especially with starting a program, like I realized that I can't control that many variables. I really had a hard time letting go on a lot of things. I remember in the transition from going from Charleston to Erskine, I definitely carried some anger with me in the first 2 years of I'm going to show you that I can really be this, and you quickly realize that you can't do it on that scale, especially by yourself. And you have to let your team grow with you rather than trying to force it yourself. I think teams can grow themselves more than you orchestrate it yourself. You're really just there to direct the program. You're not really going to make anybody be anything that they're not meant to be. And that was a hard lesson to learn because I thought I could make everybody a conference champion and force I guess a certain will upon a team, and that's just not how it works.
No, it certainly isn't. And as Jimmy said, as young coaches, we cringe about certain things. And now I get a lot of, oh, you're so patient, you're so good with everyone. I'm like, if you could have seen me 15 years ago, you would
Yeah.
you wouldn't have thought that. But we got a good backstory of how it started. So
Mm-hmm.
you've been at Evansville now for 2 seasons, coming into the outdoor season. How's it going?
It's been good. It's I when I say that I was uniquely qualified for it. When I came in, the full time assistant that was in place left, and I elected to not fill the position this first year, just because I felt like this was going to be a better way for me to connect with more of the team at the same time instead of really just honing in on an event group. I didn't want to come in and be like, I'm the distance coach is the head coach, so we know where all the resources and time and attention is going to go. So I wanted both event groups to coach distance and sprints, hurdles, jumps simultaneously. I bit off quite a bit, but it's created some really unique moments within the season for me to connect with the team, to let them know that I'm interested in building a full track team, that I'm interested in really getting this somewhere for a long period of time. And it's been really special. I felt like cross country we definitely took some big steps. The men's team really took some major steps forward and got a lot of people on the all-time list. Really grew as a group, and I think we realized once we got close to championship season that we just hadn't quite taken that step to move up in the NBC yet. But considering that I have one senior and everyone else is freshman, sophomore, to see this young group really rally around each other was pretty special. And then really kudos to the women's team. I mean, there were so many that had left in the portal before I got here, and they really worked their butts off this season. I know it didn't show at the end of the season, but they really worked their butts off and been committed to one another. And I'll really give the way the amount of like official visits and people they've hosted to try to rebuild the women's team has been really special too, to have a vested interest in what we're going to be in the future. I think that was really unique and special to me because I could understand it from an extent that there were so few of them and a lot was put on their shoulders, and they've done a great job with it. Indoor was a lot of fun. It was probably the most interesting schedule I've had to build, since I had to build it around my wedding and honeymoon, and so I had to design it in a way that made sense with that. I probably won't do it that way again. But obviously wedding and honeymoon are pretty important. So, then they've been really understanding and autonomous. I feel like with the way that it's structured, if I was to go away for 2 weeks, none of them would skip a beat. I think it would just go right on, continuing to train and holding each other accountable, and you're really competing at a high level.
So are you a one-man show right now?
I have a part-time throws coach, and then I have a volunteer assistant right now. So not completely alone, but
You were alone in the fall?
Yeah, I was alone in the fall, and well, we brought on Tyler Fields Rivestick was my volunteer assistant. He came in about halfway through cross country season, and he's been a great help. He's a nerd about the sport and he loves it, and so it's been great to have him come back, especially with him being an alum. That was really important to me to have. Both of my assistant coaches right now are alumni. And so they've given me some great context as to what the program has been, what it's done, about Evansville, about the university. They've been great navigators for me.
All right. Well, tell us about where the program has been and what it's done, and what does Evansville have to offer?
Yeah, so the track and field program went away in 1980, D1, was brought back in 2018 by Don Walters. And so, so in a lot of sense, it's still a very new program. It's not quite brand new, but it's still, you kind of have that feeling around the team and in the atmosphere of it that's still very new and still finding itself. We've had tons of records drop. We had 9 indoors this year. We had, several on the all-time list during cross country come down. So I think the measuring stick right now for us is just against ourselves, but we're not quite at the MVC level yet. I think that's been very clear in the performances that we just haven't quite taken that leap up to our conference, and it's a very good conference. Everybody top to bottom is very, very good. And so it's a little daunting to start at first, to have people take these huge leaps and set school records and PBs and be like, oh, we still got a ways to go. It can be a little bit overwhelming. The city itself has been great. I think the fall weather during cross country was nice for me. I'm used to getting scorched in August and September and October and arguably November. It was nice to be in the 60s and 70s in September. So it was beautiful cross country weather. I had a blast with that. And then we got to indoor season, and I think I was told that Evansville typically gets 8 to 9 inches of snow, and we had that on about 3 different occasions. So that was an experience for me, to say the least. I've never had to change my wardrobe so drastically. While we don't have from a facility standpoint, we have Angel Mounds cross country course. It's been a great venue for us for practice. We hosted 1 meet there, and we'll be hosting a home meet again alongside USI. And then we're hosting the MVCs, and we're hosting Great Lakes as well. So our final 3 meets of cross country season this fall will all be at Angel Mounds. But this fall will actually be the last year for Angel Mounds. It's going to be closed for cross country and competition. It's going to be just treated purely as a venue to the public, but not one that's going to be competed on. So the city is building, or has plans to build, a new cross country course just north of Gable Gable soccer fields. Some new property they built there. So I don't anticipate that I'll host in 26, but I imagine by 27 we would be able to host again at the new venue. And being a part of the discussions for how it's going to be built has been really exciting. So getting to build a cross country course from scratch. On the track side, we don't have our own home track, but we have great partnerships with Memorial Rights and Harrison High School here in Evansville. Memorial is right across the street from us. Harrison is 7-8 minutes down the Lloyd. So really close venues for us. And so we'll utilize Memorial in the mornings. We utilize Harrison in the afternoons. And they've been great partners for us and letting us train there and giving us a lot of freedom with their facilities. For shorter stuff, and especially during the winter season, we have the Armory that we have access to, where we can do some acceleration, some block work. We can run high jump practices in there, pole vault practices in there, and It's a shared space alongside soccer, baseball, softball, but that's been a great place for us to go when it gets too cold outside to be outside. And then we have an on-campus like straight track. It's 3 lanes, I think just under 100 meters. And that's a mondo surface. So anytime we need to do acceleration work, we have a place like right here on campus that we can utilize. So, by no means the top in facilities, but there's enough here. There's enough of a framework for us to be a lot more successful. In the short term, I feel like as a team moving up in cross country is going to be probably the easiest path to see more team and individual success. And then as we get to grow the staff and we grow the roster size, eventually seeing those individual performances in track.
Well, Coach, I don't want to overlook the fact that you said you just got married and went on your honeymoon. So congratulations. And where'd you
Thank
go on
you.
your honeymoon?
We went to Italy. I was there, oh gosh, felt like 2.5 weeks. Yeah, we went just after Christmas. Went to Italy and got to see Rome and went up to Rome, Naples. We got to see a lot of the Amalfi Coast. We got to see Lake Como. We were on the move. It felt like constantly the entire time. So I don't know that it was restful, but it was a trip. We got to see a lot, so it was a lot of fun.
One last honeymoon question. Rich and I were food nerds, we're foodies. What was the best meal you had?
Oh man, I don't know how it had to have been almost daily, but I'm pretty sure I had pizza daily there.
Me too.
It
Me
was
too.
and I maybe ran 3 times the entire time, so it was probably not the best for my health, to say the least. Probably the best thing that I tried. Oh, that's a great question. There was some I cannot remember the name for it, but it was a dish it was a pasta dish that was served with sea bass. That was in I want to say that it was in Rome it was really, really good. That I cannot for the life of me remember it, but that was probably the best one. I'm not much of a seafood guy, so sea bass, and then the pasta that came along with it was really good. So wish I had a name for it.
All right. Back to the growth at Evansville. You mentioned there's a lot of growth going on, and cross country is probably going to be what you're going to focus on to start building that foundation for the team. We've talked to a lot of coaches, and that's the route they went when building their programs. What kind of athlete are you looking to make part of the team to build that program?
So with the NCAA landscape really changing, I think this will probably be one of the last years that we have a very high school senior heavy class. We have 12 returners. I imagine that I'll have 25 guys for cross. And of that, I'll have to choose 17 to compete if we opt into the settlement and, see where that all ends up. But there'll be high school seniors. There'll be some JUCO transfers in there. There will be, I have a number of conversations of ones in the portal right now that are either from D2 or D1 and even some D3 that just are looking to make a move up. So it'll be a nice mix for the program. And so, yeah, I mean, they really have to fit Evansville, like as far as like the city, the university. We're around 2,000 students, so we're on the smaller side. We don't want someone that if their short list are all schools that have 20, 30,000 students, where we might not be the fit for you. We really like the personalized, close community atmosphere that the university has. Very rigorous academic programs. So I mean, you have to be very serious about getting into your career path to come here. Because you're held to a very high standard academically. And so we really want someone to check off those boxes. And, we really, as far as from a training standpoint, we try to meet them where they are. We have athletes coming in that are very undertrained, that are, 20, 25, 30 miles a week or less. And we have some that are very highly developed that are coming in running 90 to 100 and everywhere in between. And so it really is about the university and the city fit first. and we'll figure out where you fit in as a runner on the back end. On the back half.
You mentioned the academics being a tall task, and you got to be able to focus on the academics. What is the school known for? What is the majority of the team majors?
Definitely the physical therapy program is probably the biggest draw, and is, that getting into that program really almost guarantees you a job. A lot of exercise science majors, nursing majors, very stout engineering programs. And so, I'd say those majors I just listed covers quite a bit of the team, that are, very serious about it. And we'll have some that are in music and business, and have some other areas, but those are like the main cornerstone is in engineering, nursing, physical therapy, exercise science. That really is, the bread and butter of the university.
Some tough majors there with some pretty intensive workloads. We've talked to a couple coaches that have lost some students in their senior years to their nursing majors. Hopefully that's not a problem or something that doesn't arise for you. We do have quite a good Rolodex of junior college coaches, so we get that pipeline rolling for you. We can get some of those kids from Salt Lake, or maybe at Iowa Western or Iowa Central, or maybe over at Butler. We'll get that rocking and rolling for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've had some from Vincennes that's right down the road from us. So that's been a good early partner since I'm new to the Indiana area.
And how in overall, being a guy from the South, how's the Midwest been treating you, other than the snow, which and maybe the tornadoes? How has life been in adjusting? I mean, you got to hit the ground running as a coach and getting everything rocking and rolling. Have you had time to, and a wedding to plan for and to partake in and to go on a honeymoon? Have you had time to kind of be a human in Evansville?
Not too much. I mean, I got in early August. I mean, it was really, we dove right in, really got into the season. And, I think that's pretty customary for me, because when you're building a program and you have student athletes that are here right now and they're depending on, the experience and the competitiveness of the team growing right now, there's a sense of urgency to get it going. So I haven't got to explore all too much. The snow and the tornadoes haven't taken me out. So, but I had an assistant, Coach Drew, that was at Erskine, who's from North Dakota, and when anytime it was down in the 40s, I'd be all bundled up, full jacket, and he's out there in shorts and a t-shirt, and I look at him like he's nuts. And so here has been an interesting adjustment, to say the least, getting used to that. Most of the city that I've gotten to see has been mostly food related. I mean, any number of options are right there at your fingertips. Has been really nice. And, Jayla and I, who's my wife, moving from a town of 1,200 to a mid-sized city, we've been having a blast at being able to have such easy access to the date night ideas. So that's been a lot of fun for us.
Yeah, because Evansville is like I think it's the third largest city in Indiana. So it's pretty decent. I'm sure there's lots of food options and unique things that changes up from a town of 1,200, like you said.
Yeah.
Coach, have you guys, you mentioned the mounds, Angels Mound, that you get to partake do the cross country and stuff. Have you ever been over to Wesselman Woods? Is that a place where you guys get some running in, or is that not really conducive for distance running and cross country running?
That hasn't really been a place for us. I don't think it's more of like a nature park, like a walking area.
Okay.
So I think if we were to try to, we would probably disrupt a lot of people. So that's really not a venue for us. But Angel Mounds has been. There's been a couple of golf courses that we've got on. We've gone down into Audubon State Park. Has some areas there for us, and we're hoping to get on their golf course as well. That's been been knocking on every golf course door to get a variety of training places. And then for long runs, usually we'll either go north of the city into the farmland that has some rolling hills, a lot of dirt roads out that way. And then going south into Henderson, it's a little bit flatter. There's some dirt road options that are there as well. So, we've got some good options at our fingertips. I'd say Oak Hill Cemetery has been a mainstay for us as well. We do a lot of running through there. And that's pretty easy. It's open roads, it's flat, it's a great threshold workout location. And so that's been a good place for us as well.
Okay. Gotcha.
Coach, you brought up that the ladies team really helped, cross country team really helped you with the recruiting process where they would take recruits and kind of just go do their own thing and take that on their shoulders. What was that like for you as a coach, watching your team kind of help build themselves and instill in that culture?
It was a little nerve wracking at first to ask for things because I just didn't know where they were at yet. Is it a conflict of interest for them to bring in people that may potentially take their spot? And I never had any complaints of it. Every time I asked, like, hey, who can host such and such person, and it was a resounding yes every time. What do you need? And I've had no complaints from prospects, whether we signed them or not, that they had a great experience here with the women's team, and they've really gone out of their way to be involved. I have a speaking engagement on Friday at an elementary school that an alumni works at, and I got two of the women's cross country team. They're the first ones to sign up and want to come with me. So very special to see that. I'm very excited to put a good product around them and give them a great student athlete experience, just because they deserve it. They've worked their butts off to be here, and they're all great university fits, great city fits, and have all been very coachable for me.
That is great to hear that people are finding a niche and finding a place where they belong and wanting to help build that up. That's what college athletics is all about. I didn't think about that when I was on a college team. It was all about winning, but as an older
Yeah.
man, I realized that that is the purpose of sports. You also brought up the fact that you have a diverse range of times, mileage that people can handle, and you give people what they need when they need it. It's not one size fits all. How does that work? And do you see going down the road as you start building that being an issue, or do you think that will be something you'll be able to facilitate as you keep growing the program?
I think well, by default, it will get harder as we get bigger. There'll be more people that will need more individualization. But in my mind, that's the mission. If I have 25 guys, I mean, I want number 1 through 25 to have their best 4 years be at Evansville. Not everyone's destined to be an All-American or a conference champion, or even to make the conference championship. But this sport has given me so much. I was given a lot to be able to work with a little bit of talent that I was given. And so I feel a responsibility to get it from every single one of my guys and girls, to foster the talents that they have. And so I think it'd be irresponsible to come in and enforce a style. And especially in a place like this, we got to make every person count. We need everybody healthy as long as possible and training consistently for as long as possible, just so that they get to see what their bodies are capable of. And so that was something that's really resonated with me. And so, I mean, I have coaching philosophies that I adhere to and agree with. But training is very much come to the table and have a conversation. I give my student athletes a lot of say. They have a lot of influence in it, because I want them to run as fast as possible, and it's understood that they want to run as fast as possible. So they may see and feel things differently than me on the outside will notice. And so I think that's one of the great parts, is the team feels that they can approach me with training questions and input, and to be able to adapt and adjust to them.
Coaches, are any of these athletes coming to you with the request to do double threshold training?
I rolled out. I have a lot of Renato Canova themes in my training. So I've tried more of like a special block with double specific workouts. I haven't quite gotten to the double threshold. It's something that I would like to do. It's got to be the right person, and I don't want to blanket give it to everyone and see what happens. I would like a little more resources in place to do it well before just trying it. I really don't want to trial and error something like that. So it hasn't been something we've done yet. No one on my team has really pushed me for it. But I know that I will next year. It'll definitely be a topic of conversation. And I think that we'll have more once we have more staff and more resources and ways to see the team's training, that we'll have the means to do that.
All right. But you mentioned you got your start doing some strength and conditioning in the college world, and then you also took on sprints and hurdles. Your background is in distance running. Do you have a favorite area of coaching? Is it the sprints and the hurdles? Do you blend the two? Do you enjoy the steeplechase? What's your favorite event to coach?
And it's got to be steeplechase.
All right,
And
let's go.
the bitter irony is that I don't quite have one on this team yet, so I'm not coaching
Okay.
steeplechase this first year. It's my favorite event to coach just because it's such a unique athlete. It's someone that hates monotony and is very athletic, but is also a dog in cross country and has some mile range, and it's just such a fun blend. And I really enjoy coaching that athlete. I'm very jealous of that athlete because it's something I could not do myself, nowhere near. But being forced to, well, not really forced, but being pushed into coaching sprints and hurdles and jumps and gaining a lot of knowledge as a hurdles coach and being meshed with, distance knowledge has really panned out to steeplechase seems to be the sweet spot that I've gotten a lot of growth out of several athletes that I've had in that event. And on the sprint side, I'd say probably the 400-meter hurdles is the favorite event on that end. I coached College of Charleston school record holder in that event. I had a blast with those athletes, and I know they all hated every workout I rolled out for them. But I have a lot of fun getting to see that and witnessing it from the outside. So those are my two mainstays.
Oh, as a former steeplechaser, I coached an NCAA regional qualifier in the steeplechase. So I agree with you. I love the event. I love you got to be a little bit of crazy. You got to have a little bit of range. You got to have a little bit of athleticism. Yeah, I love it. So I'm right there with you. Hopefully we can get you a steeplechaser. Does anyone seem like they have some hurdle ability on the team just yet, or no?
I think Woody Burrell on my team is the one that's I think's got a real shot to be good at it because he was cross country and then 400 hurdles. So he was more of a sprinter, and this year he's really embraced being at least a middle distance runner. He's got a stress fracture in his foot, so I don't know if that will come to fruition this outdoor season. We'll see how his recovery timeline is, but with the current roster, I'd say he's the one that's probably got the best chance of it.
Have you planted the seed with him yet?
Oh, we were all on board for it.
Okay.
To go start to try it, and I think we let some foot pain kind of carry on a little too long, and before we realized that it was something significant, and so before we got to really get into specific sessions, he was out with a stress fracture. So he's cross training now. I think he should be running in maybe a week or two, somewhere in that time frame. So we'll see how he comes back, and maybe we'll go into it again.
All right. Well, hopefully we get a speedy recovery and that bone heals up real nice. And you said his name is Woody?
Yes, Woody Burrell.
All right, Woody Burrell. Write it down, folks. Keep that in mind. Keep your eyes on the Missouri Valley Conference in the years to come.
Absolutely.
Coach, you brought up that you're sharing time with outdoor facilities as far as track, and I believe you said in 2018 they brought the track program back. Has there been any promise or any carrots dangled in front of your face? Hey, you get this amount of numbers, you bring this amount of kids to regionals or to nationals, we'll start getting you a track, anything like that, any kind of promise?
I wouldn't say like a promise if I do X, Y, Z. I think that the school is very serious about getting one built. It's a matter of where and when. So I know those conversations are being had. As far as the timeline, I'm not sure. But we are intentional about getting a facility because I know that we do want to host MVCs at some point in the future. That's a desire of the university. So not sure yet. I think our partnerships. Especially with Memorial, I know that they would like to build a football stadium in the near future, and that would mean getting rid of their track. So I know that they would like to partner with us to build one new, which I think would be not only great for us, but I think for the city to get a brand new track facility in the city to be able to host and do all that. So I know the partners are in place and the desire is there. Just the timing of it, don't know yet.
You said you didn't want an assistant coach this year because you wanted to do it all. You wanted to get a little bit of see what each role entailed, coach all the events the way you wanted to coach it so you could mold it. But Rich and I both know that being a head college coach, you're a CEO of a business, right? And to get a facility, get endowments, you gotta shake hands and kiss babies, and you gotta get the alumni. So besides coaching all the events, doing the workouts, what else are you kind of dabbling or jumping into as far as being the CEO of the Evansville track and cross country program?
Yeah, it's getting to know the alumni has been probably one of the first and foremost priorities. There's been a handful that I will talk to often that have been very involved, and I think those talks have been very promising. And then kind of navigating my way through fundraising beyond just asking the alumni for money. It was something that at Erskine that I felt was a creative strong point for me in the way that we could fundraise. And being new here, that's been an interesting change. And so those kind of outside influences they probably are more asking the alumni for it, since there's a greater base of it here than I had at Erskine. Because at Erskine, we all did it ourselves. I mean, we worked games through Clemson, and got paid 15 an hour per person, and that was the full team that was out there, and that's how we got to add meets to the schedule. That's how we got to we were able to get our own team vans that way. We were able to do some really cool things with it, and so there's not quite an equivalent here, but I know the market is out there. We've worked at some Ford Center games this year. And then obviously with hosting the home cross country meet, we do get some from that. So still very new, very young into it. And I felt at the time when I would have posted a job, I didn't think I would find the right person, especially being new myself. I don't know what I would look for yet. And so I added a lot to my plate just because I wanted to make sure if I was going to make a hire, I was going to make the right one. I didn't want to rush one and build a relationship, middle of the year, and then realize in the back end of that, maybe this isn't the fit that I want. I'd want to really take some time into it and build it out and get my feet wet so that I can help that person be successful here.
Are you, I guess, having the program come back in 2018, you have a young group of alumni that you're reaching out to help. And you also mentioned you have some volunteers that are helping that are alumni. I'd imagine that has got to help get to know the lay of the land and the program and the ins and outs of the town and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and Don Walters, that was at the program for a long time, has been a great help in kind of giving me some context and really just being in ears, like, hey, have you tried this? Is this a good idea? And really kicking some things his way to either tell me it's a good idea, a bad idea, because he's been there for a long time. And he's just so well connected in the city. He's been a great resource for me. And then there's a pretty significant alumni base from before 1981 as well that have been interested and have written checks. And these are people that I haven't even had a conversation with me. So there's been some great support there, and I know they all really want to see a track get built again at UE and really see where this program can go and get it very modernized.
You mentioned too that the MVC is a very competitive track and field conference with the likes of Northern Iowa and some of the other schools in there. Mm-hmm. What's the plan? Obviously, everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to get to the top. Have you given yourself a timeline? Are you talking about, like, I know you mentioned breaking school records, getting into the ranks, but still maybe not being at the top of the conference. Are you still able to celebrate those things with athletes or get them to celebrate them? And then also keep their eye on the prize of getting to the top of that heap in the MVC?
Yeah, it's a hard conversation, just because when you're in kind of like no man's land, where you're improving but you're not quite at that place, it's hard to celebrate it, and not everyone's cheering for you unless you're at the top. So you kind of have to be your own cheerleader at a lot of times. I think everything for us is internal right now. It's measuring against ourselves. It's measuring against what we are capable of doing from a cultural standpoint, from a performance standpoint. from a practice standpoint until those results show on the outside. So there's not really, you can't really put a time on it. You can't say, all right, I'm going to be at this place by this time. When we go in, we have an idea of where we think we should place or who should make finals. But a lot of that is the important thing is the team culture and the team environment itself. If that's not in place, it won't matter who I sign. We won't move up at all. And so once that bridge has been crossed, where we are at a place where the team culture is really independent of me, and they get to a place where they can say to others that come in, that's not how we do things here. Once the team has those kind of moments, that's when you're ready to go somewhere.
Yeah, we had Coach Matt Morris on from CSU Pueblo, and he kind of had the same sentiment. Whereas, it's the athletes they're the ones that are creating the culture. I'm here to kind of just guide them, and obviously, I know what I want the culture to be, but it's really them that are bringing it to the table, and they're the ones that are presenting it to the new recruits or the new athletes, the incoming athletes. Are like, hey, this is how we do things. Maybe that's not what we're doing. That's not what we're about here. So,
Yeah.
um, sounds like that's a common thing. We also hear people talk about recruiting personalities or recruiting humans as opposed to times or distances and those sorts of things, because you can bring in those humans and those personalities, and they're the ones that are going to figure out how to be good.
Yeah, for sure. And getting the team to look at their craft differently than they perhaps had in the past. I think really attaching a joy and a joy to what they're doing is really important. I think if you really get into the weeds of if I don't make finals at conference, who's going to care about me? And it's how long is that kind of a motivator going to keep you going when you're going through hard training cycles, when you're having races not go your way? It's got to come back to joy of what you're doing, and it's the same that goes for me. When I compare myself, it's like, I didn't even beat so and so this year. Probably the laughing stock of the MVC. My mission is higher than that. My mission is to send men and women out back into the world better than when I received them. And so at the end of the day, if I had never coached another All-American or a conference champion, but I've made a difference to the lives of my student athletes, then I will have done my job.
Amen.
Coach, did you say you got to Evansville in August?
Yeah, well, end July, early August. I think August 1st was when I was actually feet down here in Indiana.
So you're juggling a lot of plates. You got a lot of things going on. You're trying to build a program, trying to
Yeah.
take them to the next level. Do you feel, I guess you never feel comfortable as a college coach, but do you feel at home? Do you feel like you're in no man's land? Do you have other coaches on the staff for other sports that are mentoring you, that are, hey, this is what you need to do. This is what I did when I started. How's all that going for you?
Yeah, I don't think I've quite because I think I'm still in a rental house in Evansville. So I knew I just needed to get here and get going. So I haven't really worried about I guess what is home and what isn't yet. But I have great peers at UE. All the sport head coaches here are really good and really well thought out. I've had very meaningful conversations with Wes at baseball and with Coach Ragland with men's basketball, and kind of hearing it from their side, who've had a lot of success. Baseball, was one game away from the national championship. Robbie has an incredible culture with men's soccer. They won the conference tournament this year. And so I feel like I'm with giants. I'm with really well-spoken, talented coaches that carry themselves with a lot of poise. And, it's been good for me to be the low man on the totem pole that I need to get better. And they've been great influences, very positive and encouraging for me. I've really thoroughly enjoyed all my conversations with them as they've navigated, their time here in Evansville and how they've built their programs and how they've, cultivated their resources. And so there's a good roadmap in front of me for how to do it. And there's really great support for me to get to that point.
That's awesome to hear. It's always good to have peers to kind of help you along and, hey, this is what you might be expecting, things like that.
Yeah.
I got one last one for you if Rich doesn't have anything for you before we get into the Final Four. But you mentioned, I believe when you were in high school, that through running, you got into the FCA. Is there anything like that at the college?
Yeah, there is an FCA group here, and there is oh, what's it called? There's another kind of similar group with it that's actually like 3 doors down from me, from
Is it,
where my rental house is.
is it
That's
Athletes in Action?
No, not quite, but I am familiar with that group as well. But like a lot of the men's and women's cross country team goes to the same church that I do, and it's been really cool that I'm starting to get my feet wet and getting plugged into a church that I get to see them there, and just in the way they carry themselves has been great. I really like the character of my team to a very high extent, and that's been a really blessing for me because you never know what kind of team you're walking into. I've really enjoyed their character and how they carry themselves.
Yeah, we find that with a lot of the programs we talk to, and I don't know if it's something that I was ignorant to when I was an athlete, but that seems to be more of a thing with FCA or teams going to the same churches, stuff like that. And college, I know we talk a lot of Christian colleges, but coaches actually talking about that with their athletes or encouraging that. It's refreshing to hear things like that.
Yeah, and I will credit my time at North Greenville. Coach Stober, Coach Sims, Coach Bain were all really great, godly Christian men, and were great influences for me. And even though I wasn't really the best athlete, I had great examples put ahead of me. So it was weird to have to coach against them when I was at Erskine. So now I get to be a proud alumni because I don't have to coach against them anymore.
Coach, I got a last one for you. It's off the track topic related. You're a Miami Heat fan
I am.
and you're a chess player.
I am.
Who is your favorite Heat player of all time? And how does chess help with your coaching?
Favorite Heat player of all time? It's Alonzo Mourning. Yeah, I went to a game in 1998 and got to see him live. So I got a lot of flack during the LeBron era of I guess you were a Cleveland fan last year, but I went to a game in '98 before all those guys were there. So I'm a lifelong Heat fan. I think Eric Spoelstra is a phenomenal coach, and um, chess is like the game that gets me thinking. Getting to play. I very rarely get to play in person, so usually has to play online through chess app. But um, it gets you thinking outside the box. I find that I'm the most creative once I've played chess for a number of time or a number of days in a row. It also gets very addicting because I will end up using my spare time on that, and then next thing I know, 2-3 hours have gone by. Um, but it's one that gets me to think outside the box. I think it really engages the creativity. Even when it comes within training, I find that I have a lot of clarity after I've played, kind of like a warm up.
Is that something you've been at for quite a long time?
I got into it in elementary school, and it's been kind of off and on since then. It kind of comes in phases. I think when someone beats me, then I can't leave it alone for weeks or months at a time, and then I'll get tired of it and move on. And so it's one of those that's in and out. Just depends on where my interest is at the time.
So with the bus trips, is that a question that comes up in recruiting? Are you a chess player?
I'll hear it mentioned at practice, and then they'll say they want to play me, and then I never hear it come up again. So I'm still waiting for someone on the team to actually play me.
Still waiting for a worthy opponent?
I'm waiting for a worthy opponent.
Okay.
Although I know if any of my Erskine people were listening, I'm going to get a request tonight. So
Have you ever lost to a student athlete?
yes, as a matter of fact, I have. Tim Ash, one of my sprinters at Erskine, picked it up, and within like a month and a half, he had a ridiculous ELO online and played me and finally got a win. So
Wow.
yeah.
Shout out to Josh.
Rich, I'm sure we will talk about this offline because we didn't get to talk about it before we hopped on. But I don't know if you saw, but and I'm gonna butcher his last name. Josh Waiskin was on
Rogan, yeah.
Rogan, and Dylan, if you don't know who he is, he's from the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer. He was the little boy in that movie. He also wrote a book that I read years ago called The Art of Learning, where after he was a chess prodigy pro, won a bunch of world championships, he got into touch hands fighting, which is a form of combative Tai Chi. And he was a world champ at that, but he's also black belt in jiu-jitsu, and now he's into some kind of foiling, I believe it's called. But he just from chest, he is able to learn anywhere across the board from the concepts that he used to become a great chess player. So
Mhm.
you might want to check that out. I don't know if you're a Joe Rogan guy. We'll get into that with the Final Four, but check out that episode. You might like it.
Okay, I will have to look into that.
Coach, is there anything that any potential athletes listen to this podcast, any parents of athletes listen to this podcast that might want to know or that you wanted to talk about that we didn't bring up that you want to talk about?
Um, I think if you have your heart set on competing Division One, we still have roster spots remaining. I think that we are a safe landing spot for development, for close connection with the team, and as a head coach, very my coaching style is very close to the vest, very mentor mentee. And so if you are still wanting that at the Division One level and it works out, then this is a place for you. We're far beyond just trying to win the NBC or trying to set PRs, but we want to set people into the world better than when we received them. We want to develop the whole person. And as UE is big on being a change maker of a campus, I want to make changes in their lives. And if that's what you're seeking alongside of running and getting a great education, this is where you should be.
Especially if you're a steeplechaser.
Especially if you're a steeplechaser.
Any
Final four,
particular
Rich? Sorry.
sorry, any particular events? You say you have roster spots. Is there any things that you're in need of, or obviously your bread and butter is coaching distance runners, but you also have the sprints and the hurdles and having to get some throwers in there. Is there anything particular you're looking for?
The men's class is nearly done. I think we'll probably be at 45 here, within a couple of weeks. On the women's side, distance in the sprints. I know Coach Freeman is still looking to add throwers as well, and so there's a lot more that's available there. So if you are in those events and ready to compete at this level, we want to talk to you.
All right.
Coach, first question I have for you. Are you a coffee drinker?
I am.
How do you brew your coffee and how do you take it?
I can drink it black. I think Europe kind of ruined American coffee for me. So now I have the means to. I mean, I almost can't drink it. I have a normal coffee maker, so a little
Get
bit of a
yourself an
snob.
espresso machine yet?
Yeah, I got myself an espresso machine. That's the minimum. So I can drink it black, French vanilla, creamer with it. But yeah, I prefer it to come from an espresso machine.
Coach, I was over in Europe for a month in the summer and I had that same problem. It took me about 2 months to get back to normal coffee because I was drinking espresso every day and they had the great machines. Even in the hotels, breakfasts, they had the great espresso machines. So I feel you.
Yeah. Yeah, coffee in Spain and Italy is very, very good. I miss it often.
And I will say when I was in Europe, when I was in Italy, I only ate pizza too. So I was right there with you. Coach, do you have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Dylan Anderson?
I don't know that I have a ritual. I think I was just in the way that my parents raised me. Not to make excuses, not to not to be off. You have a job, you have a responsibility, and so I don't know if there's a routine or a ritual or a place that I can get to, but I know that it was is finding a job that had purpose and passion, and the rest of it will take care of itself. It's not something I have to get myself up for and get ready. It's something that I enjoy. Yeah, so no ritual routine, just I show up and I do it.
Yeah.
Coach, what are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
There is a book. I think it's just titled. It's Dr. Cook. It's like an all white book. A Greatness, I believe, is the title of it. This is one I've started going through right now. Music wise, I definitely don't fit in with any of my team because I grew up with parents that were both musicians and listened to music in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So I'm a big Beatles guy. So,
Do you have a favorite album of the Beatles?
I don't know that I have
Or song?
a song.
Or period?
Period. Um, Probably more of the ones that John Lennon wrote.
Okay.
I guess I'll leave it broad as that. More of the ones that John Lennon wrote.
Is he your favorite Beatle?
He is. But I did get to see Paul McCartney live. I'm very glad I got to do that. He played live in Greenville. And so I'm not a big crowd, big concert guy, but I was like, this opportunity is never going to happen again. So I got to see Paul McCartney, really loved that experience. But yeah, I think John Lennon was probably my favorite Beatle.
I respect that too. You know, sometimes you just got to be like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. It might not ever happen again, especially as some of our favorite artists get a little bit older. As we get a little bit older, we might not get a chance to see them. So I took in Willie Nelson last year because of that. I'm not much of a late night concert goer, be out past dark these days, but I figured how much longer is Willie Nelson going to be around? I better get myself to Simpsonville to see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Coach, last one we have for you. This is a lighthearted one. It could be anything. Maybe it's some unique food that you and your new wife have found in Evansville. Maybe it's a craft beverage. Do you have a guilty pleasure?
It's probably not unique to Evansville, but tonkatsu ramen.
Okay.
My wife lived in Japan for a year and has gotten me to try some things. And now that I have the ability to have it delivered to my house, has been brutal for me. So I've had a lot of tonkatsu ramen especially in the last 3 months.
Okay. All right. We like a good bowl of ramen, don't we, Jim?
Yes, we do. And some udon noodles as well. Coach, thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for spreading the message of the University of Evansville. Rich and I are all about the underdog. We're all about those unique colleges or those unique opportunities, and that's what you are offering. So thank you for following us on Instagram, and thank you for saying yes to the Airey Bros. I'm super stoked we had this conversation, and I hope some of the junior college guys that we talk to, some of the coaches hear this podcast, let their guys know about you because I know you're doing great things. And besides giving kids opportunities to get their goals, you're also putting better people out in the world, and that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. So thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely, Coach. We will be rooting for the Purple Aces as we head into the outdoor season, and we wish you the best of luck this season. And at the end of the year, when you head into the Missouri Valley Conference, we wish you the best of luck, and we'll be rooting for the Purple Aces.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our cross country and track and field trifecta this week. We are super excited and appreciate all of our guests. Make sure you go say hi to Coach Anderson. Go check out the University of Evansville. Let them know that the Airey Bros sent you. Next week, we will be back on Monday night, and we're switching gears. We're going to be going belly to belly. We're going to be talking a little New Jersey wrestling. We're going to get into the short conference. We're going to talk Rumson Fairhaven wrestling. Coach DeLuca is going to be with us. So enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. We appreciate you stopping in, checking in with the Airey Bros. We will see you all next